Good afternoon. My name is Morgan Potts. The picture on the board is Australia, a scene that was all too familiar to its people and its wildlife back in 2019. That picture is just a year old. The 2019-2020 wildfire season in Australia is among the worst natural disasters in the world. Homes, businesses, communities, schools were all destroyed, even people and animals. As someone who loves animals and nature and the environment, this topic doesn't settle well with me, which is why I'm so interested in it. The wildfire season is approaching for this year, not just here in the United States or in Australia, but anywhere in which the country experiences wildfires. And even though we may not be affected by it here on the East Coast, it's good to be educated about the subject. Wildfires are very threatening, and they burn millions of acres of land and destroy communities and even affect the wildlife. Let's focus on Australia and the true devastating nature that these fires bestowed. We'll begin with where it started and move into the type of damage that it caused. The year of 2019, Australia found itself in a drought period. And as a country that normally experiences wildfires, the drought only worsened the conditions. According to the Center for Disease Philanthropy's website that I accessed on October 16th, fires began to erupt in early June of 2019, which is a little unusual because it's kind of early for the season, but at the time it was nothing that Australia couldn't handle. However, as we got into November, the conditions only worsened, and then they became out of control as we creeped into November. The conditions spiraled in such a way due to the increase in temperature and the prolonged drought. According to BBC News, 2019 was one of the hottest years on record for Australia. Some places reached a temperature above 49.9 degrees Celsius, which is 121.8 degrees Fahrenheit. And this news is shocking enough, but it only gets worse. So according to a news article by ABC that I accessed on October 16th, 12.6 million hectares of land were burned during the infamous Australian wildfires. And a single hectare is about 10,000 square miles. And just to further the perspective, New South Wales, which is an area in Australia that was greatly affected during this time, on average usually burns about 300,000 hectares. And in 2019 alone, New South Wales was responsible for 5.4 of the 12.6 million. In this image, it shows the true, how much more Australia burned than some of the other larger wildfires. And as you can imagine, a lot of land was destroyed due to the vast area of these fires, but a lot of people were affected as well. Between the months of June 2019 and March 2020, at least 3,500 houses were turned to dust and 34 people died. The majority of the casualties happened in New South Wales, and insured claims were estimated to be approximately $1.3 billion US. But the thing that broke the hearts most around the world was the effect that these fires had on the wildlife. Australia is known for its large variety of wildlife, and according to Nature Australia, more than 80% of wildlife in Australia, which includes flowers, mammals, reptiles, etc., is indigenous to the country. This means that they're found nowhere else in the world, so if they die in Australia, you're not going to find them in the wild in North America. 3 billion of these animals were harmed or affected in some way, according to Wildlife's website. The effect ranges from uprooted, injured, or killed, and a lot of these animals' habitats were burned, so that resulted in dehydration and starvation as well. More than 100 species that were already endangered were just further stressed. And it was all around a true heartbreaking scene. The beautiful and lively country of Australia endured a true tragedy, with millions of acres burned and thousands of communities, homes, and businesses destroyed. The 9-month wildfire period that started in June 2019 and ended in March 2020 is one that will never be forgotten. It was one of the worst natural disasters in Australia and in the world. be thankful that this kind of stuff doesn't happen to you, but do think about how California or Oregon or any of our other states are affected during their wildfire season. Thank you. Questions? Yes. I found most interesting how much land was really burned, because I knew it was bad, but when you like put a number to it, you kind of realized how awful it really was. Anyone else?